I had someone ask me recently what my favorite Bible is. I think that's what they asked, something like, what's my favorite Bible out of all the different editions that I have. And it got me thinking about doing this video here that I'm going to do on the best all-round Bible. And I just want to say that I know this is a little controversial because it's going to sound like I'm saying out of all the Bibles that are out there, this is the best. Or out of all the Bibles that I've shown you, this is the best. And that's not what I'm saying in this video. What I am talking about here is something very personal. What I would say is the best Bible for me. All round, meaning, you know, taking all things into consideration, you know, what are the different uses I would have, how easy is it to carry around, to fit into my backpack, take with me, large enough to be able to read easily, use for different scenarios, whether that would be long readings of Scripture or teaching from the Bible or following along as someone is teaching. So taking all that into consideration, I'm going to give you what I think is what I've found, and it's going to be a little surprising actually, because I have a lot of different Bibles that I really like and that I've recommended. I think there's many great Bibles out there, but it's actually kind of surprising which one ends up being the best all-round Bible for me. So hopefully I've gotten your curiosity piqued and you're just dying to know which Bible I would say is the best all-round Bible for me. And the winner is the Holman New King James Version, large print, ultra thin Bible. This particular edition is in a brown leather soft, so it's a true tone, some sort of a synthetic leather. I'm not even sure what they call this in the Holman edition, but it's a synthetic brown leather soft type cover. So it's not genuine leather, it's synthetic, but it looks really nice. But what makes this the best all-round Bible for me, and you might not be surprised if you've heard me talk, maybe you've even heard me talk about this Bible, and so you're not super surprised that I like this a lot. But the first thing is the translation. So this is the New King James Version. And the thing I love about the New King James is that I do really appreciate the King James Version and the history of it and what it's meant for me personally in my life, how well written it is, the literary beauty and quality of it. And the New King James is an update of the King James, and they just did a wonderful job. They did an excellent update. As I talked about in a previous video, they spent 7 years updating to create the New King James Version. 7 years working to update the King James Version. And it was finished in 1982. It was they did a little minor update, I think, in 1984. And since then, it's been pretty much the same. I don't think it's been changed at all since 1984. So it's just a really good, historically based translation. I also like not only that it ties in with the King James, but it's a balanced translation. It actually does contain notes that, and I don't know if I'll see it here, but yeah, certainly translator notes. But in the New Testament, you will see notes that actually have to do with the different textual bases of the text. And so I love that you're going to get the traditional text, or the Textus Receptus, which is what you had in the King James Version, but you're going to get the notes that tell you about the different texts, bases, and what they say. So I think the New King James is just great. So if you're a King James lover, you can still use this. If you like something like the ESV, I would still argue you can use this because it is updated English, but it also does have those notes of the critical text for you to look at and compare. So the translation kind of hits that sweet spot, at least for me, between the older translations and the modern translations. The second thing is the price. Now, I know that this could go either way. Having a really high quality Bible is good. This costs about $21 on Christian Book Distributors' website, so it's a really affordable Bible. $21. Maybe at the most you'd spend about $30. You can get these in other covers, genuine leather, even premium leather, and then you're looking at for the premium leather. Over $90 for something like this. But for what you're getting for $21 in this edition, I just think is great because, as much as I like premium Bibles, I know I can take this anywhere and do a lot of things with it, and I'm not worried about it getting messed up. I mean, I still want to take good care of it, but I don't feel worried about taking it different places because it's a good price, and also it's really affordable. Anybody could buy a Bible like this and could afford it. And let me just comment on the quality. It's not premium quality by any stretch in terms of the materials and the make of it, but it's good quality. I mean, it does have the gold gilding on the sides. It has a nice look to it, and it's got two decent ribbons, and I think the ribbons really have a good look with the size of the Bible. I like the black for more of the Old Testament and the red for the New Testament part of the Bible. So I really love just the overall look of this. It's perimeter stitched, and that looks really nice. The spine has the gold imprinting, and it's very understated, very elegant, really nice looking. I think the way a Bible should look. And when you look on the inside here, again, this is a $21 Bible, so you're not going to get edge lined or any kind of amazing liner, but you could buy a few of these for the price you pay for some Bibles. Actually, you could buy like 10 of these for the price that you pay for some of the Bibles out there. So you get a lot of bang for your buck. You really do. I like that. And the quality is quite good. I like the size of this. Now, again, this is just personal. But some Bibles are too big. Some Bibles are too small. So I think there's this range that you might call the Goldilocks zone for Bibles where it's just right. For me, this is just right. It's big enough to have a good size font, but it's a thin line. Or actually they call it ultra thin in the Holman edition. So for me, the ultra thin is great. I just think it's easy to fit into a backpack, carry around. It's actually easy to hold. The cover is firm enough that you can hold this in your hand quite easily. So I think the size is about as good as I could ask for in order for it to be portable and yet have a good size font. And that's the other thing I wanted to talk about is the print and the layout of this Bible. So this is produced by Holman, and some competitors to this that I would say are pretty close would be the older Nelson verse by verse, and I'll show you that. This is a thin line produced by Nelson around 2010, and these are pretty much the same Bible. They have the same book introductions, probably the same center column references, and the same layout really as far as pagination, which verses are which on which page. But as far as the print, there is a different font used for these two different Bibles, and I'd say the paper quality is pretty much the same. And I'm just going to show you here the print in the Holman. And as you can see when you look at these, the Holman in some ways actually looks like a older style print. And it's not as uniform. I mean, it's got spaces where the justification really spreads out the letters more than in the Nelson. However, it's very bold and very easy to see this print in the Holman. And what I find is even though this is a cleaner text, I actually think at first glance the Nelson looks nicer. Because this is bolder, it really actually is easier to read, and the spacing of it actually ends up being less cluttered than what you get in the Nelson. Now you can't really tell so much on camera what I'm talking about here, But I will tell you that just for me personally, when I read out of the Holman, I find it to just be easier to see everything and to read versus this. For whatever reason, I find the Nelson, this is an older Nelson, just starts to look cluttered, and for my eyes is not as readable. Although it looks nice and it is a cleaner look. But I would say if I was in various types of lighting, because of the boldness of this font, it's really easy to see. Also, it's very old school. It's not a digital font, so it's not as clean looking, but I actually like that. That's kind of endearing to me. Again, I grew up reading the Bible, older Bibles, so I just like the look of this. And so let's compare it to the newest Nelson verse by verse. Now, I just want to say, because I'm obviously talking very highly about the Holman, and it might sound like I'm saying it's a better Bible than the Nelson, the new Nelson, and it's not objectively speaking a better Bible. The new Nelson verse by verse has nicer things about it. It is a higher quality Bible overall, just in terms of the design of it and what they use for ribbons and materials. This is a nicer Bible. It's double perimeter stitched, so it's got nicer things about it. Even the layout, the comfort print, very large readable font, as many people have said. The highlights of the red verse numbers and chapter numbers and headings, love those red highlights, and the references have some red in there too. So really well done. This is a red letter edition Bible too, by the way, as was the Nelson I was showing you. The Holman that I have is a black letter. Some of them are red letter. But anyway, what surprised me in looking at this was that, you know, the Nelsons are known with their comfort print for having a nice, large, readable font. And I kind of felt like the Holman font looks smaller. But when you actually put these two together, so it might surprise you, but these fonts are actually not that different of a size. And again, this is very bold in the Holman. The Nelson, the newer ones, have that bold comfort print. But I would say as far as size, even though I think the Nelson is advertised as a 10 or 11, and this is more in the Holman in the 9 to 10 range, they're actually a similar size font, not as different as you might think. Overall, yes, I do think that the Nelson is a higher quality product all around. But for me, for all-round use, I'm going to edge it out to the Holman New King James Version, because really that font is about the same, almost as readable, and you get a thin line edition of it. The footprints are actually pretty much the same, but when you compare the width, or excuse me, the depth of them, the thin line is definitely thinner. That's why it's called a thin line. So there you go. Overall, all-round Bible for use of teaching, preaching, carrying around, personal study. It's kind of got it all, right? It's got the good size font, it's got the references in the middle, it's even got a decent margin space if you wanted to write in it. The font is nice and bold, and it is verse by verse, but you do see those bold numbers to designate paragraph separations. It also has section headings that are pretty easy to identify. So, and with it being kind of that old school look, that just is a bonus for me. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on the best all-around Bible for me, the New King James Version, ultra thin, by Holman Bible Publishers. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions and feedback on all of this in the comments below this video. Thank you so much for watching Look at These Bibles from a Fresh Perspective.